lot of things that we get personally offended by and fracture our relationship, there is a very clear biological and physiological reason behind it. A lot of the reasons why our heart relationship is broken and fractured is because we don't understand the context of what is going on in our teenager and kind of lost a sense of empathy for where they are in their stage of life. So I'm going to try to recreate that a little bit inside of you and walk through a little bit of what is going on inside of them as they transition from child to teenager to young adult. So let's talk about their physical development first. In early adolescence, the body undergoes more development than any other stage of life except 0 to 2. Think about how much a 0 to 2-year-old changes. That is the only stage of life that is faster than what is happening to an 11 to 13-year-old. And actually, a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old are going through pretty much the same stage of development, testing and exploring. It's just the 13-year-old has a whole other set of tools to do that with, right? But it's the same concept. To be honest, if you want to understand a young teenager, go to a 2-year-old class and check it out. It's the same behaviors. Now, don't tell your teenager I said that. Greg said you act like a 2-year-old, and I agree with him. That would just get us all in a lot of trouble. I know that you might notice that they're beginning to get clumsy. That is because their bones are growing faster than their muscles, and they look awkward to you. But they feel even more awkward. We do understand that the girls grow faster than the guys. This makes for very awkward and funny dating in middle school relationships. And then there is what I like to call the hormone cocktail. That's when the body, starting in the brain, starts to initiate a flow of hormones to regulate growth. There's a lot of things that are happening during this process. I'll spare you all the biological parts of that, as I'm not a scientist. But I will tell you this: those hormones are actually creating new grooves in the brain that help them think in a different way. It's reforming them. Their organs are getting bigger. I just want you to think of your teenager as under construction. This hormone cocktail is completely revolutionizing their body, their mind, and their soul, the way they think, believe, and who they are physically. By the way, this is not a perfect process. Sometimes a gland will squirt out too much hormones. Sometimes a gland will squirt out not enough hormones. That is why sometimes you have a crazy, intense, emotional being, and then later, it's like they just took a downer. Well, how did that happen? Well, there's that physiological reason for that. And sometimes we don't understand why they're yelling and screaming one minute, and the next minute, it's as though nothing ever happened. Well, there is that physiological reason for that. Now, that doesn't excuse them for yelling at you. We need to not get personally offended by their actions. My big anthem to parents is to have consistent consequences with as little emotion as possible, because they are crazy emotional. And if you return emotion with emotion, all you will do is create World War III. So one of the skills for us as parents is we receive emotion and then we go get our emotion out in a healthy way. We go work out or punch a tree outside or whatever we need to do. Then when they bring it at you, you take it to another place and don't bring it back at them, because you are going to disconnect that heart connection. Okay, the next one. Their prefrontal cortex that handles executive functions like planning, reasoning, and anticipating consequences. This is not yet connecting, and it won't connect until sometime in their early 20s. This really does explain frat parties, doesn't it? So here is the thing, legitimately, not making excuses, but legitimately, they haven't been able to figure out potential consequences. Like me and my middle-aged buddies all went camping. And one time we were all going to jump from one rock to the next. But we started asking each other questions like, how's your medical insurance? Can they get a medical helicopter into this spot? Can I still drive with a broken leg? We were all going over all of the possible horrible things that could happen. But if we were 15 again, we would have already jumped. That's just how it is. So let's recognize that, because sometimes we want to look at them and say, where is your brain? How could you do that? Have you lost your mind? I wish they had the ability to say back to you, no, Mom, Dad, my prefrontal cortex is not yet connected. That would be awesome. I might have to work on getting them to be able to do that, but that would probably freak you out, Mom or Dad. One of the greatest gifts you can give your teenager in this awkward stage is that consistently you communicate to them that they are normal, that this is normal, and that you are normal. Because in this stage, when they walk into a room where all the eyes in their mind are on them, do you remember that stage when you were 13? You had a pimple and you walked into the room, and in your world, everyone is zooming in on that pimple, where in actuality, no one ever noticed the pimple that was on your face because they were all noticing the pimple that was on their own face. This expanded sense of self is something to consider, and is one of the reasons that they act so crazy. And hopefully, if you have some understanding of that, you will be able to be a little bit more patient with them.